talking to someone out here. It's a vending machine for downloading how-to projects. You know, you don't put those things together normally. And I think to some degree, we're talking about intelligence on a new level. We often think of brainy people. We don't think of hands-on people or see the connection between hands-on and others. Howard Gardner is a psychologist who studies different kinds of intelligence, and I was surprised to see this definition. And intelligence is the ability to solve problems or to create products that are valued in one or more cultural settings. So this, Henry Ford, is a cultural setting. And to bring these things in, whether they're science or craft or engineering, and to get people to understand what the value of them is a sign, I think, of the intelligence of the audience and of the makers themselves. So, one of the characterizations of the Make movement is DIY. And it's really this idea that you do it. It starts with you. It doesn't mean you do it alone or by yourself, the lone tinkerer. We don't have to go off and be all by ourselves. But it has to start inside you as some idea, something you want to do, and then you go out in search of it. I'm proud to be here at the Henry Ford because in many ways our idea of invention starts in Detroit. The garage inventor is what Henry Ford was, long before the Hewlett-Packards and the Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. This is a photo of a recreation of the Bagley Avenue shop, and we can... What I've observed here, when we see pictures of Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, other inventors, we see them later in their careers. They've got white hair, they look very distinguished, they're kind of put into an honorable setting. We don't see them with dirt on their hands. We don't see them in the context of imagine how many other people were in this garage with Henry Ford. The other people who had the expertise to do some of the parts. But in many ways, what Henry Ford started is very analogous to what we see in the technology world today. But one thing, Henry Ford didn't invent the car. But he had the clearest vision of what a car would mean to our culture. That it would change the way we lived, the way we communicated, the way we went about our daily lives. He grew up on a farm. He didn't like the farm. He wanted to find a way to get off the farm. And he had this very personal motivation to change the world. And I see that in many of today's makers. This is a project we featured in the last issue of the magazine. And this is an arcade game called Outrun by Sega. And the Sega is a driving game, a simulator, right? The first wave of gaming technology was to take things we did in the real world and find ways to recreate them as a game. Well, Garnet Hertz had the idea that he would like to put wheels on that arcade game and be able to drive it. And so that's step one. He had a kind of a crazy idea to take a video game and build a chassis for it so you could drive it. But he didn't just stop there. He wanted to build a computer vision system so that he could see what was on the road and translate it back into an 8-bit arcade view that is there. Watch this video. So the real world gets translated back into a game. He called it a D-simulator. We don't have sound here, but I don't know if you can plug in any sound, but you can kind of get what he's doing here. Now, this isn't practical. There aren't going to be a fleet of Ford arcade games out there anytime soon. But it's playful, it's experimental, and it's just a bit crazy. There we go. So it's something similar, but also a little crazy, are cupcake cars that you see one out in here. We have them in the Bay Area.
Plywood and chicken wire and eggs. We're nothing without our hats. I brought with all my other maker friends the cupcakes, the mobile cupcake cars. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. Whoopsie. Blueberry muffin coming through. You don't want to die being killed by a blueberry muffin. Wanted to make something to follow up on the bunny slipper cars that
So I'm
made
going
us
to step through that. But it's fun. You know, you see that, and in a sense, Maker Faire grows out of this thing. It's fun to see that.